Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Kamau and we're going to continue our reading. Say hello to Kim, Kimora, hi, and this is Zande, still with us. I don't know when my daughter is going to tell me that she's ready for her baby. This is my daughter's teddy. Right, so yeah, my daughter is 19. My daughter is 19. This is her teddy. He's just visiting with me. So she's going to let me know when she's ready back for him, right? So Zande is with us until such time. And Kim, of course, is always gonna be here. She was a gift from my student, Kimora. Alright, I believe I left off at chapter, I'd almost ended chapter 9. I think I was on the last page of chapter 9. So I'm actually just going to read the last page of chapter 9 just to make sure that I got everything in for chapter 9. And then I'm going to continue reading from chapter 10. So there are 12 chapters in this book, Yellow and Me. So thank you for staying with me so far. Let me know in the comments what you think of the story so far. Take time with me. Remember, I wrote this book when I was 13. Don't be too harsh on me. Just let me know what you think so far in terms of the plot development, the character development. And be gentle with me, please. So I'm going to read the last page in chapter 9 just to make sure that you didn't miss anything, because I think the video cut when I was wrapping up. I was going so fast trying to get everything in on that video. I don't know if you noticed, I was really reading fast near to the end, but it cuts, right? So I'm gonna go now. So Pauline got worse. So this is continuing chapter 9. Pauline got worse, but Yellow didn't seem to remember that I had a sister named Pauline. Pauline grew more and more insane. Every night, Yellow would preach and tell us, "Do not do your neighbors wrong. Ye must honor God and obey his commandments." And the words would touch us so much that some of us cried. "Ye have sinned when ye said that ye wanted to be a preacher," Yellow had told me. "Ye must pray to God and ask for forgiveness. Ye have sinned." So Yellow would make me kneel before him and admit to God that I had sinned, and begged him to wash me and cleanse me so that I wouldn't sin anymore, so that I would be whiter than snow. But I got darker and darker every day. And when I went home those Sunday nights, I would quickly wrap myself into the sheets so that Ma wouldn't know that I had gone. But one night I went home and Ma was there, sitting up in bed as if she had been waiting for me. Ma saw me come in and she looked at me, and her eyes were so powerful that they burned me. Ma sat there on the bed with a tie head wrapped around her head and a bottle of alcohol in her hand. Ma stopped looking at me and glanced over at Pauline, who was fast asleep at the other corner of the room, with Sheldon in her arms. Then Ma looked at me again, this time intently and questioningly, staring at me and paralyzing me. So I waited for her to beat me, but Ma didn't beat me anymore. Then she rolled back onto the bed and gave out one loud cry, dropping the bottle of alcohol and waking Sheldon. Ma cried so hard that I began to cry too. Men are not supposed to cry as a rule, but I broke the rule of manhood that night. I sat in the middle of the doorway, staring outside at the darkness and crying like a wounded coyote. And Ma was still crying too. Ma was wailing. Ma and I wide awake inside the house in the middle of the night, wailing and roaring loudly, because that was the only way for God to hear us. That is the end of chapter 9. So we have 3 chapters to go. I'm just going to go straight now into chapter 10. And I wanted to make sure that I wrapped up chapter 9 properly because the video had ended even though I was racing to get everything in. So chapter 10, Yellow and Me. At school you had this girl, Maria. God must have really been in a good mood when he was making Maria. She wasn't like other girls. She had great big charcoal eyes and smooth chocolate skin. It was a treat to the eyes to see Maria walk, her not so rounded teenage hips swinging with all her might and her skinny legs sticking out of her uniform skirt like 2 lubricated corn sticks. Things that children find attractive. Well, adults too find some weird things attractive in people. So Maria was this girl at my school that I liked. Maria had an eye for me too. I felt proud going up to the front of the class to work out sums on the chalkboard, even though I hardly got any of the sums right. But I still felt proud, and I could just imagine Maria staring at my back as I did the sums, admiring the muscles which had begun to take form. At lunchtime, I would join the line just before Maria came in so that she could stand behind me and admire the muscles some more, to realize that I was becoming a man. So one night we had a fete. I brushed my hair and carefully put on my blue shirt, which I myself had washed 3 weeks before the fete, and I even asked Yellow for some more of his cologne so that I would smell sweet when I approached Maria. So on the night, we danced to the cha-cha-cha freely among the crowd. Then we waltzed closely together to the sound of the school band as they played a slow romantic tune. And then we drifted away from the crowd and went into a corner all to ourselves. I had always heard that that was what a boy and girl were supposed to do when they went to a fete together. I don't know what came over me that night. All I knew was that Maria started to caress me, and there I was feeling warm and excited, as if something which had been stored up inside me was now dying to be released. I didn't know what it was. It felt as if the spirit was coming again. Then I remembered Yellow telling me that only he was allowed to make the spirit come. So I let go of Maria and ran out of the schoolyard, looking desperately for Yellow, and when I didn't find him, I wet myself. You must remember that I was only 14 years old at the time. It wasn't until 3 years afterwards that I realized what had happened. The next day, when I went back to school, Maria refused to speak to me. I didn't feel proud going up to the chalkboard anymore, for Maria was no longer staring at my muscles. Instead, she was using her eyes to throw darts at my back, and I wondered why. At home, things were the same, with Ma not talking to Yellow and Pauline not talking to me, her brother. Pauline was a bundle of nerves. The neighbors saw Pauline, but the neighbors didn't say anything concerning Pauline. At least, they didn't say anything for Ma to hear. But neighbors are mysterious people. They pretend not to see anything, but at the same time, they have telescopes by their windows, antennas on top of their heads, and cameras installed within their eyes. So neighbors see things, but they don't always talk about the things that they see. Pauline couldn't have cared less whether the neighbors had record players strapped to their bosoms. Pauline screamed for the better. Pauline cried day in, day out, sunshine or rain, day and night, as if she had been blessed with an extra supply of tears. Ma would say to her, "Pauline, you want some tea?" And Pauline would look at Ma as if Ma was speaking a different language from what she, Pauline, was familiar with. You want me to help you with Sheldon, Pauline? I would ask her, but she would give me the same look that she had given Ma. Ma became frustrated. I'm going to take her to see a doctor in Kingston, she promised, but she never raised enough money to take Pauline into Kingston. So Pauline remained at home to torment us, to remind us how life rough. Pauline became almost retarded. The bed in the corner of the room was her world. Ma would murmur about how Yellow didn't care about what he had done to Pauline. She would murmur and think out loud. That's all these young people know to do nowadays, she would say, throwing words at Yellow. Fool around with people, girl pitney, breed them, and then leave them as if nothing ever happened. Lord, you really treat me bad, but I guess it's so life go when you live in a place like this. And she would look over at me, for I would be looking at the only photograph of Maria that I had, and Ma was tired of seeing me looking at the photograph. I hope you're not going to grow up like that, she said to me. Then she would turn to her Lord again. Lord, you really treat me bad, but I know it's only testing me, for a mechanic must test his tools sometimes to see if they're still willing to work for him. Tools make to go through rigorous treatment, and I know that you is a mechanic and I is your tools. I know you only testing me, but I'm still willing as ever. And when Ma was finished praying, she would be calm and strong again. And she would smile at Pauline and tease me with her eyes. It's soon time for you to graduate, she said to me afterwards. I'm going to make a fine suit for you. A fine suit with jacket and tie, just like the one that Pastor Rickett's son wear come to church. I'm going to make a fine top-notch suit for my big boy to graduate in. So Ma put more effort into her laboring and made more frequent trips to the market in Kingston. And in the space of 3 months, we had gathered enough money to buy a piece of black cloth and some black thread at a variety store in Richmond. She took my measurement, for she had to make sure that the suit wasn't too big or too small for her son. He had to look trim and neat for his graduation. You look sweet, she said to me before we left the house, and she called to her partner. Sister Joshua, run come look at my son. Thus I was made to spin and pose as if I was a scientific creation on exhibition. Let me go and call Yellow, I said to her immediately, instinctively. Ma was disappointed. Let me go and call Yellow. Sorry. Ma was disappointed. What do you want to go call Yellow for? I want him to see me graduating, Ma. She sulked. She had looked so pretty in her new dress, but the mention of Yellow made her grow ugly. What do you want Yellow to come to your graduation for? Don't I is your mother? Don't I going to be at the graduation with you? But Ma, alright, go and call him. So I ran to the tent with my black jacket blowing in the wind and flying behind me as I sprinted. You coming to my graduation? I asked Yellow, my black face rosy and happy. Nay, he said, I must stay here and pray. But I want you to come. You go alone, Rodney boy, I cannot come. I'm not going then. I'm not going if you're not going, I said decidedly, plopping down on the cardboard bed, for if the prophet wasn't going to be at your graduation, what sense was there at all? So I ran back home to Ma. I'm not going, Ma, I told her, loosening my tie. What do you mean you're not going? I don't feel like going, Ma. Yellow say he can't come. So, Because yellow say he not coming, you not going either. You're not going to your own graduation. I hung my head. For Ma made it seem as if obeying the will of the prophet was a shameful thing to do. Look at the nice suit that I make for the boy, she said to Sister Joshua, who nodded in agreement. Look how the boy looks sweet in it, and to go collect him certificate. Look at the nice suit. Tears were in her eyes, but I had already taken off the suit, so I didn't graduate. The principal gave me a piece of paper with my name on it and the school's name on it to indicate that I had been educated up to the full scope of the all-age level standard. The certificate meant nothing to me anymore. It really hurt Ma. She had even borrowed Mr. Isaiah's camera so she could have taken a photograph of me walking across the stage in my suit to collect my certificate and walking down the aisles with the others in the graduation march so that she could have something to remember her son's graduation by. For events pertaining to sons are different from events pertaining to daughters where a mother is concerned. So it hurt Ma. But she got over it, as mothers always find a way to get over things that hurt them. So what are you going to do now? She asked me. Now that you leave school, you have to find something to do. You can't stay in the yard. You're going to get lazy and roam about the place like all the others. You have to find work to do. I know, Ma. So what are you going to do? Farming? Or you want to go to Kingston and learn a trade? You want to learn a trade like what Mr. Isaiah's son learning? No, Ma, I want to do preaching. Preaching? She said surprisingly. But what do you know about preaching? She laughed a little. I want to be a preacher like Yellow, Ma. Like Yellow? Well, not exactly like Yellow, for Yellow is the son of God. I want to be a disciple then. They have a school in Kingston where they train people to be disciples. This time Ma didn't laugh. But she didn't talk either. So I thought that she was searching her mind to see if she knew of any schools in Kingston where people could go to become disciples. For disciples were professional people and you had to have brains to become a disciple. But Ma was quiet for the rest of the day. When Pauline wasn't crying, she was sleeping. So her daily routine was divided into two intermediations. Big word, intermediations. Pauline had a very diplomatic and organized approach to her routine. She had very distinct periods for when she would laugh uncontrollably and when she would cry uncontrollably and when she would do both. Pauline was very diplomatic indeed. In the afternoons when I had finished helping Ma in the pig pen, I would go into the house and squat upon the floor. In that position, the coolness of the polished wooden floor would penetrate through my clothes and enter my body, and it would make me calm and relaxed. Then I would gaze around the room, looking for something that my eyes had never seen before, something very tiny and trivial. And my nose would come alive and I would smell the scent which was always there, for a house had its own familiar scent, which belongs to it alone. But you could only perceive these things when your senses were silent. So on certain evenings I was filled with sentiment. I would visit Yellow very often. Ye are getting to be a big man, he would say to me, still owning his refined biblical accent. Ye are growing very well. Thy shoulders and thy entire body are getting stronger. And look at thy face. Ye has a moustache, a very small one, almost invisible. And he would touch my face and stroke my cheeks and use his finger to play with my moustache. Ye are almost a man now. Yes, I said to him, feeling proud to know that I was now a man. Almost. We have come a long way, Rodney, my boy. God mean for us to do his work together. Two of us, together as if we was one. And he would stroke my cheek and play with my face some more. Corporal Jacobs came with more news. Another prophet had been beaten in Westmoreland, this time beaten to death. What this one do? Miss Tulsi asked. This one is a big trickster, said Corporal Jacobs. He really know what he was up to. What he do? We inquired half-heartedly, for the actions of these false prophets had become so usual and frequent that we had grown used to them. This man rougher than all the others, the corporal said. He take the people picnic them, saying he carrying them on church outing. 2 months later, he returned with half the amount of picnic, saying that he couldn't find the rest. And all this time, him shirt blood up and stain up. So last week the police find the other rest of picnic them, 5 of them, stiff stone dead in an abandoned building. The people never make fun with him. They beat out the life out of him. These false prophets getting from bad to worse, said Mr. Isaiah. Every day you hear about them. When they're not killing people, people killing them. Just up to yesterday, I read in the newspaper that is 23 of them dead so far in about 4 years. I don't know if any more dead. I don't read today's paper yet. His sign and wonders upon the land, everyone confirmed. Ye cannot say I have not warned you, Yellow said, standing. One by one they will perish like flies until only one is left, the real one. He only saying that because he don't want people to turn on him and murder him too, Ma said to me when I got home. That's all he doing. He know that Jamaican people don't joke when it comes to things like that. Then one day the revolution happened. I was sitting on the floor like I always did when I had nothing else to do, and Ma was kneeling beside her bed praying. Then Ma looked up at me and said, Rodney, come over here a little. I stood and went over to her. Kneel down right beside me. She signaled for me to get down on my knees. I did, and she held my hand. We're going to pray together, Ma said. Close your eyes. I closed my eyes. Say after me, Dear God. I repeated after Ma, Dear God. I am a young boy, Ma continued, telling God that she was a boy, as if it wasn't God who had made her into a woman. I don't know what good for me from what not good for me, but you know, only you know. Steer me onto the path that I must take. I know the road is narrow and rocky, but steer me onto it anyway, even if I seem to be stubborn to go. Steer me away from things that are false. Grant me wisdom so that I may know what to believe in and what not to believe in, so that I will not stray. Guide me and teach me, for I am young and I don't know what to do. Be with me from now until forever. Amen. When I opened my eyes, I was a changed boy, changed for the better. You realize what you must do now? Yes, Ma. So the next Sunday, Ma and I were on our way to Richmond Baptist Church. It was a lowly church. The walls and the floor were not concrete. They were made of the same wood which our house was made of. The room was larger and the rows were longer, true, but the church was just as lowly as Yellow's little tent, and they had a sculpture of Jesus on the cross at the center of the church. Not the real Jesus, but a symbol, an interpretation, a remembrance. Not the real Jesus, for their Jesus was a spiritual being. Their Jesus wasn't yellow. We entered the church, me following closely behind Ma, feeling shy but certain. But everyone smiled at me and I changed from shy to secure. This was the church which I belonged to. This was the church in which I realized who the real Jesus was. And though he was a spirit, I felt I could reach out and touch him and even squeeze him. I longed to go back to Castleton, so that I could tell Miss Tulsi and Mas Frederick that I had found what they had been searching for all their lives. Ma smiled and she sang, as people who are extremely happy will do. Ma hugged me and she hugged Pauline when she got home. Pauline didn't know why Ma was hugging her, but she hugged Ma just the same because people who are insane can be happy too. I looked back at the last 2 years of my life, of our lives, and I prayed about it, believing that only prayer could change things. So the next time Ma sent me to the shop, I ran past the hill with Lion running behind me and went straight on. 1 pound flour and big Jill oil, please, I said to the shopkeeper. You're going to fry some crisp fried dumpling tonight, Rodney, or some fritters? The shopkeeper said to me, smiling. Yes, Mr. Lee. And Lion and I would pay our debt, take our flour and our oil, and march back from whence we came. And we would pass the shrubs and the bushes, and when we approached the hill, we would slow down a little just to listen for a while to the round of the singing and clapping coming from the tent, to remind ourselves. But we didn't stop. This time, we walked on into the night, passing the candlelit tent and walking onwards into the darkness. End of chapter 10. So we have 2 chapters to go. 2 chapters to go. So I'm going to end the video here and then continue the last 2 chapters in another video. So thank you for staying with me through this journey of Yellow and me. Say goodbye to my babies. Say goodbye to my baby and my grandbaby. My baby and my grandbaby. We'll see you in the next video.